Okay, black supremacy. So I'm going to continue reading. And again, you can see this is from Wikipedia. I'm going to screenshot probably the rest of this these type of videos. Um, so again, in my last few minutes of reading, we see how the age of consent has evolved from supposedly being something to protect children from child sexual abuse, right? To where we see today where it is easily used um, against black men in particular. And that's how I see that this has evolved into um, as dealing with African Bambaataa. Again, I'll continue to put my commentary in where I see, and you know, it's not just about African Bambaataa, but just the black race in general. How I see that the age of consent is basically just being used against us. So I last finished reading that the lesbians didn't have any laws for their own selves, even though the feminists were the ones that had brought this about, but there were no laws pertaining to them basically until recently, for the most part. So situations like these have been attributed to societal views on traditional gender roles, which we're going to see why that is, right? And to construct a male sexuality and a female sexuality. So female and male sexuality was constructed. I mean, the plot thickens, and I did come across a book about um the construction of the family, which I'll put the link in if I find the link to the book. I do have the picture on my Instagram, so if I can't find a PDF version of the book or whatnot, I will put a link of the image, so you are, or at least put the title or whatever, so you can go and read that book for yourself, and just to get a deeper background into how a lot of these terms, these ideas that we have are manufactured by white supremacy, which is my main point of making these videos. And that, you know, if we are going to be judging each other, we should basically have our own rules and laws set up, not just setting out lynch mobs and then sending these people back off to white supremacy that is working against us, right? So again, to construct situations like these have been attributed to societal views on gender roles and to constructs of male sexuality and female sexuality. According to Mark Telozzo, viewing females as perpetrators of sexual abuse goes against every stereotype that society has of women. Women as mothers and caregivers, and not as people who abuse and harm. Alyssa Nutton argues that women are not acknowledged as perpetrators of sex crimes because society does not accept that women have an autonomous sexuality of their own. So that's the main reason why we can see how terms like rape, molestation, sexual abuse, age of consent are being used against black men in particular. We know that they've inflated the idea of black male sexuality. So you see why black men are targeted to the degrees they are. And you know, next in line is the woman. So I would even go as far as to say is that when Africa Bambaataa said that me today, you tomorrow, that even applies to black women, because you know, we see how this is evolving, and eventually you know, it could go there. So again, women were not viewed as having their own sexuality. So again, we see how these ideas are just myths and constructs that they make up and they use and abuse to their own ends. Marriage and the age of consent. The age at which a person can be legally married can differ from the age of consent. So here we go again. In jurisdictions where the marriageable age is lower than the age of consent, those laws usually override the age of consent laws. In jurisdictions where the marriageable age is lower than the age of consent, Those laws usually override the age of consent laws in the case of married couples where one or both partners are below the age of consent. So again, when I said that in some states 13-year-olds can be married to grown men, this would apply in jurisdictions that have this clause. Some jurisdictions prohibit all sex outside of marriage irrespective of age, as in the case of Yemen. Prostitution. In many countries, there are specific laws dealing with child prostitution, okay? Pornography and jailbait images. In some countries, states, or other jurisdictions, the age of consent may be lower than the age at which a person can appear in pornographic images and films. In many jurisdictions, the minimum age for participation and even viewing such material is 18. As such, in some jurisdictions, films and images showing individuals under the age of 18 but above the age of consent that meet the legal definition of child pornography are prohibited, despite the fact that the sexual acts depicted are legal to engage in otherwise under the jurisdiction's age of consent laws. So some more if this or that confusion. In those cases, it is only the filming of the sex act that is the crime, as the act itself would not be considered a sex crime. So you see that they can film it, or sorry, they can do it as long as they don't film it. In that case, for example, in the United States, under federal law, it is a crime to film minors below 18 in sexual acts, even in states where the age of consent is below 18. So you see how they still try to enforce what they want to enforce at the end of the day, or they at least try to imply it. In those states, charges such as child pornography can be used to prosecute someone having sex with a minor who could not otherwise be prosecuted for statutory rape, provided they filmed or photographed the act. Jailbait images can be differentiated from child pornography, as they do not feature minors before the onset of puberty, nor do they contain nudity. The images are, however, usually sexualized, often featuring tweens or young teen girls in bikini skirts, underwear, or lingerie. Whether or not these images are legal is debated. When questioned regarding the legal analysis, Jeffrey Tallman stated he thought it was not illegal. So even a legal analysis thought that was not illegal, though legal expert Sonny Hostin was more skeptical, describing jailbait images as borderline child pornography, which may be illegal. So you see here how it's up to these two crackers, right? It's up to some crackers somewhere to determine what is legal and what is not illegal. And you all have not even met these people. You've not debated with them. You've not questioned them. And, they have the say at the end of the day, as to how to influence what is legal and what is not. And it's like, how do you all just lay on your backs and accept that without seeing why we need to construct our own nation and really get serious about this if you're serious about things like age of consent and whatnot. The human immune system continues to develop after puberty. Again, we're in the health section now. Health. So the age of exposure has an influence upon the immune system, upon if the immune system can fend off infections in general. And this is also true in the case of some sexually transmitted diseases. For example, a risk factor of HPV strains causing genital warts is sexual debut at a young age. If this extends to the cancer-causing strains, then sexual debut at a young age would potentially also increase risk of persistence of HPV infections that cause the very HPV-induced cancers that are being diagnosed in spiking numbers of relatively young people. Now, I want to say some of these, can be quite a stretch, because if you look at HPV, that was also something that they're pushing. And from what I also researched and experienced, that again can be basically healed or wiped out by basically what you're eating. And they push these scares on us to again get us to fall in line with whatever that they're putting out. So moving on, initiatives to the change of the age of consent Age of consent reform refers to the efforts of some individuals or groups for different reasons to alter or abolish age of consent laws. These efforts advocate five main positions. So you have people who are pushing to abolish the age of consent laws and alter them. So this is a constant tug and pull by people generally in white supremacy. I think some black people are probably even um, too scared to even engage in, in this, but you claim that you want justice. But if your justice is coming from white people, I mean, it's no justice at all if you have nothing to do with it. Otherwise you would have people who are basically just pushing their agendas, right? In sorry, in so these efforts advocate five main positions: introductions of close in age exceptions, a change in the way that age of consent laws are examined in court, either increases in the age of consent or more severe penalties or both, either decreases in the age of consent or less severe penalties or both, abolition of the age of consent laws, either primarily or as a temporary practical expedient. So again, what is your participation in that to really say, you're going to even be satisfied when they come to, if somebody, a judge or what you call a judge did make a decision, it probably still wouldn't even be to your satisfaction, because most black people want to see these people killed. And so it seems like though that you'll accept whatever the white man rules out by region or country. So this goes into what you call it, the minimum age of consent laws, and it shows you the age. It's probably better if you go online to see this stuff, because again, here's Africa. I'm just gonna scroll quickly. Oh, what happened? So that was supposedly certain states or certain countries in Africa, the age of consent laws. Now that's just gonna throw me off altogether using this phone. So I'm just gonna cut this video here, and I'll upload probably the last half. Should be the last part of my video.